want people to, like I said, not feel alone and do something, make that change in their life. Stop going down the same path all the time, thinking, well, I can't do this because I went through this as a kid, or I can't do that because I went through this. Things that we go through shouldn't stop us achieving what we want in life.
I just wanted to start this episode with a message of thanks. Thank you to everyone that chooses to listen to this podcast. By doing this, you're enabling me to reach more people so that they might learn how to unchain the pain to live a healthier, happier life. The feedback that I get from those that take action and are inspired by the show's content is incredibly rewarding. So I'd like to ask you a teeny tiny favour. You are truly able to change the course of this podcast, the types of guests I have on this show, and everything that I do by doing one simple thing. And that is simply hitting the subscribing button. The guests on this podcast are incredible because so many of you have hit that button. When I think of what I want to do this year on this show, this is fueled by the amount of you that subscribe, that tune in, and that comment on the show's content. So please keep subscribing, keep commenting. Any type of comment, please keep them coming, and keep sharing the shows that you find inspiring. I can't wait to see what this year brings for this show, for you, for my community, and for this platform. Thank you. Welcome to the show, Brain Health, Unchaining Your Pain. I'm joined by the incredibly brave and courageous Ryan Harland. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So for those that don't know Ryan, he's written the incredible book, RidingTheStorm, which is all about his life's history of trauma. And I know we're going to talk about that in more detail, but just in terms of Ryan, he's an advocate for mental health and a survivor of sexual abuse. He shares his own experiences to inspire others to overcome adversity and to turn it into a more positive life, to prove it doesn't matter what you've been through or how old you are, you can still make a difference. And I'm super excited to talk about this because I know we've got several relatable things that I'd love to discuss. But before we start, I would love to know what you are passionate about in life right now.
Just spreading the awareness for mental health and the trauma that happens in life, just to help others out there that know that they're not alone in the way they're feeling and what they've been through, and that it's okay to talk. It's okay to open up, and you can start to, like I said before, make a difference. You can turn that adversity into some kind of positivity. It's a shame that you have to go through things like that in life, but it shouldn't stop you as a human being to be the best version of who you are. Sometimes it can make you as a person, like it has me. It's, my trauma has led me on to being who I am today, and I love who I am, and I love going out there, share my story just to help others.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think it's so important to recognise that, because often people talk about post-traumatic growth, where your experience helps you grow into, as you mentioned, the person that you are today. And yes, it's horrendous to experience sexual abuse for anybody at any age, but the fact that you can take the experience and turn it into helping others and at the same time helping yourself is a wonderful courageous opportunity, really. I was going to say gift, but I don't think it's a gift. Courageous opportunity that you've created, which so many people can't. So I think that's lovely.
Yeah, it's weird. I was saying the other week to my wife that I'm kind of, in a weird way, thank you and glad that I've been through what I've been through, because it's made me who I am today. And I don't know what type of person I would have been if I hadn't of made that change and made a difference. So I could have been anyone, but I'm glad I am who I am today. It's weird, you know. I try and kind of put a positive spin on all of it.
I know. I think that's. I think for me, I mean, I've been through lots of different experiences, but it shapes you, doesn't it?
Mm.
I think when you've had some kind of abuse in your life, it shapes you to be more empathic to other people's abuse. You kind of had that level of understanding that you would never have had if you hadn't been through that experience. Certainly for me, and you can
Yeah,
relate to other people's stories better, and you can understand what they've, all the mishmash that goes on in your brain as a result of it.
yeah, definitely. I've noticed that I can see pain in other people sometimes before they even want to admit it themselves. You can see it in their eyes. I believe that the eyes say how someone's really feeling. A smile fakes how they're really feeling, and
Yeah.
you can just get this sense. You can just get. I don't know. It's weird that you can just kind of understand someone before they can understand themselves, really. So you kind of know the right questions to give them that opportunity to open up, because otherwise I don't think they would. So like you said, empathy, that is a massive thing for trauma survivors, and that, and then that's a gift. I think having massive empathy is a really wonderful gift to have, because like you said, you know, you can understand people's pain and things like that better than anyone else.
Mm, mm, yeah. And you become that safe haven for a person as well, don't you? When you've
Yeah,
got that
definitely.
experience.
But the
Good
flip
point.
side, that is, not so much now, but years ago, I was always there to help other people understand their pain and troubles and things like that. But it was never reciprocated in the group of circle that I had growing up in the last, well, not so many last few years. I've found my people, but before that, you know, I was always the one to help others, but no one was there to understand me, and that was hard to take. That was hard to understand and deal with. But thankfully now I've found the people that know me, and I know them, and I can turn to them. They can turn to me, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, and I think when you can get that two-way dialogue where you can open up, that's where the real magic can happen. I'd love
Mm.
to know, before we dive deep into your story, what does optimal brain health mean for you personally in the context of your journey?
Um, I believe that you need to understand the brain as much as possible, because it's a powerful thing. It really is. You know, it's messed me up so many times over the years. It really has. You know, I was overthinking. I thought the worst of every situation possible, and it just messed me up completely. But then I come to terms with understanding my brain a bit more, getting diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And once you learn to understand your brain, it's a wonderful thing to have. Don't get me wrong, I still have my bad days. You know,
Yeah.
I'm only human like everyone else and that. But yeah, I it's hard to explain. I kind of love my brain most of the time.
Yeah. Well, I think
It's
it's great to love your brain because your brain loves you so much that it will do anything to help you stay alive and survive. And
mm,
often the way that our brains work is their mechanism to ensure your survival at the time that we experience a trauma doesn't necessarily serve us in the long term. It served us at the time we had the trauma or had the traumas if you had multiple,
mm,
but then it may manifest later that the programming that you've experienced in your brain actually results in you not being able to perform at your best. And so we have what we like to call brain struggles as a result of that. So what would you say makes your what is the best brain in the context of your brain? What would you say is the best for you? How does your brain help you be your best?
um, I guess it's to do with the empathy. again as well. You know, you can, your brain can look through things that other people can't. You can see the true feeling and pain and sorrow behind anyone's eyes like no one else can. So for me, that's the lovely part of my brain. You know, you can see the inner child in someone standing in front of you. They could be a grown-ass human, adult, sorry, but inside they're still that little boy or girl. Do you know what I mean? And you can see that. So for me, that's a powerful thing, because I know that if I can help that person, that's not my job done, but I know how much that's going to feel for that person and think, well, someone sees me for who I really am, and they don't judge me. They're not dismissing me or not believing me. You know, they can see it and understand it. And for me, that's just powerful. That's lovely.
So it's kind of become your superpower.
Well, I don't wear my pants on the outside or anything like that, but yeah, it kind of is. Yeah. I'm going to have to come up with a superhero name now, aren't I?
But isn't that super interesting how our experiences give us a power that we didn't realize we actually had, and it's actually uncovering that power from the experiences that allows us to really impact others. So I'd love to dive into your story, if you could take us on the journey where your story started.
Yeah. My childhood growing up wasn't the best. It was me, my mum. My mum's still and always will be my best friend, even though I'm married again and I've got a beautiful wife, and she's my best friend. But my mum will always be my number one friend. She was my rock growing up and that. And I had older brother, Kevin. He was 4 years older than me, and we was like chalk and cheese. Like, I was always outside playing with friends and that. He was always a indoor playing inside type of kid. But the one negative from my childhood was I only say this once, and like I say, my book only named it once, father, or from now on will be known as sperm donor. He was a nasty piece of work. He was a paedophile. He was stalker. What else? Peeping Tom. And if you can name, that was him, and he caused pain for my mum so much growing up, and it kind of shaped us for who we were for the first 11 years until my mum left him. And I didn't see
towards your mum as well, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, he used to beat her up if he didn't get his own way. That was it, you know. But for me, now I can see it was a bad time and that. But growing up, I thought that's how family dynamics worked, you know. Because whenever anyone else was in the house, like friends or family and that, he was a completely different person. So I just assumed that when I was going around other people's houses, you know, it was all lovey-dovey, you know, all kissy and everyone being nice. But as soon as you left that house, that's when I thought all the violence and everything started. I thought that's how family life took place. But it wasn't until, like I said, that I was 11 when my mum left him. My brother was 15 at the time, when I started noticing more what the social dynamics were in life and that. And I could see what a person he truly was, because I was shielded from it a lot, but my brother experienced a lot from him. My brother was sexually abused by him between the age of 5 and 15. And none of us knew that for a long time. And I still went to see him when my mum left him, just to keep the peace, and plus go and see my friends as well, because he stayed in the family home. And then when I was 19, I went round to his flat. He moved by then, and he sexually abused me then. And that's when my life changed forever.
So thank you for sharing your story, because it's such a difficult story to share. And you know, to to have experienced that as an adult, a young adult, obviously, with your father, it is so traumatic.
Yeah, it's how can I put this? It's someone that you thought was meant to protect you and keep you safe and show you the right path, no matter what. Not take advantage and groom you for all these years, because we was always made to do what he wanted to keep the peace. So my mum didn't get beaten up or anything like that. So you used to kind of just say yes. So when it happened, I just laid there thinking, well, I've got to take this, because otherwise, if I say no, then it's going to kick off elsewhere.
Yeah.
But
all the consequences for yourself will be bad because you're a male.
I wasn't thinking of that at the time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just,
well, you'd witnessed it, hadn't you? So you'd witnessed the consequences of not doing what he asks all your life, you know, with your mother, and your default mode would have been to respond exactly the way your mother did, because that's what you learn as the safe mechanism in order to survive. You know, that was your survival. That was your survival default.
Yeah, it's like that flight or fight. No, fight or
Freeze.
flight.
You froze.
Yeah.
Which I think what many people who do experience abuse, sexual abuse, is exactly what they do. Because there's not much else you can do if you fear for your life and you haven't got the strength to fight back, or you've been, like you say, he'd groomed you and your mother, you'd witnessed how your mother had dealt with it and she'd survived, then, you know, it's totally understandable that would be your response.
People have said to me before, well, you was, you know, nearly a man yourself, you know, you could have fought him off, you know, you should have known what's right or wrong and that. I said, yeah, don't you think I beat myself up for that for my whole life? But you don't understand the grooming stage before and what's underlying there. Do you know what I mean? You wasn't there from day one up until then. Do you know what I mean? You know, it's in hindsight, yeah, I wish I could have kicked the crap out of him that day. You know what I mean? But I was always that little boy when I was around him, even though I was nearly as tall as him.
Yeah.
But when I was around him, I was that little boy. And that little boy stayed with me for a long time. It was only the last couple of years I say that I've started letting go of that little boy, because he was holding me back because he needed protecting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's really important for people to be aware that when you have grown up in a environment that is almost analogous to a war zone, and I know it isn't, but I'm just trying to paint the picture for people to relate to it, where all of your training up to that point where your dad sexually abused you has been to do what he says, because that will protect you and your brother, or your mother, or whoever it is that you love as part of that family dynamic, to not fight back because you saw the consequences of fighting back. And you saw that, you know, for 15, 19 years, you know, let's say 15 of absolute cognitive memory, up until that incident happened. And if you were in a war zone and you've been, you know, done the training for 15 years and something happens that requires an automatic response or autonomous response, autonomic response, sorry, then you completely understand why somebody would do a certain action if they were in a war zone, because they're being trained to do the same action for the last 15 years. But it's exactly the same in your circumstance. Your whole training was about, this is how our family survives. This is what my mum's done. This is what we've always done in order to get through it.
Wow. I've never looked at it like that, but yeah, that makes perfect sense. You know, I didn't know any different. So you go with what you know, and like you said, what you've learned and what your training's been. yeah, I wish I wish everything was different to a certain degree, and I wish it never happened, and I wish I dealt with it better. But
But your brain knew at the time. Your brain knew what is the safest, most productive way for me to survive. Because our brains are amazing things, and we should never beat ourselves up for how our brains behave. Because they're programmed from birth to ensure your survival. And your brain chose the pathway that it was conditioned and programmed to do to ensure your survival. And that is, we are still here today. And that's what it did,
yeah,
And I know you've been through battles as a consequence of your brain's choice at the time that the incident happened. But
oh yes,
nevertheless, you came out of the incident and you survived it.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I just got a bit emotional then, but yeah,
That's all right.
no, it's just nice to look at things in someone else's perspective, and when you hear it from someone else, kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Not agreeing with you, or just say, yeah, you done what was best for you at that time. It makes me realise that I know I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't ask for it. I didn't want it, and that and it wasn't wrong just to lay back and take it, because that was what, like you said, that I was trained to do.
Yeah, exactly. And we should thank ourselves for, and I know it sounds very opposite to what we think we should be saying to ourselves, but we should be thankful that we chose that course because we survived it. Because that was the right course of action at the time to help you survive. And I think, from any sexual abuse victim, the ones that make it through, because some people don't, whatever course you chose at that time to help you survive was the right course. And never beat yourself up about it.
No.
Because you're a survivor.
Yes, we are. Oh.
No, it's fine to. It's good to release emotions. It's good to release emotions. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. It's kind of, like I said, reaffirmed to me that I know I didn't do anything wrong, even though I beat myself up for so many years asking, did I ask for it? Did I do the right thing? Should I have fought back? Should I have done this? Should I have done that? But at that time, it was the best and easiest thing to do than anything else. And, even though it wasn't, years later on, it worked out, it wasn't the best thing for me years on.
Of course.
I was dealing with the aftermath and things like that from it, and people judging me, using it against me and things like that, but at that time, I don't think there was anything I could have done differently that would have had a more subtle or better outcome, if that makes sense.
I totally agree, and I think it's a safe outcome for yourself, isn't it? Because ultimately, and I read your book and it's fantastic. You had an abusive father who hit your mother, so fighting back could have had terrible consequences. And you had a family dynamic that you wanted to protect. I can't remember if you knew that your brother had been abused by your father. I don't think you did
Not at that time. No.
No. You would have done everything. You were not conditioned to have a different opinion.
No.
You would have done everything to protect those that you loved from, from the situation. And so, all of the preconditioned experiences, absolutely, you did the right thing, for your own personal safety and the safety of those that you cared about.
Mm. 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 Yeah.
So I know we've had a very deep moment there. What
It's
if
good.
you're
It's good though. Sometimes it's nice to go that deep and just kind of reassure yourself and reaffirm that, you know, it was the right things to do, and, you know, and things like that. You know, I need reminding and reassuring myself sometimes that I'm doing the right thing, and I was like I said in the past as well, doing the right things as well. So I need reminders. So having this conversation is massive for me, and I thank you.
No, you're welcome. And I think we underestimate the power of our brains. Okay,
Mm.
and I know you've a consequence of the traumas that you've been through has wired your brain in such a way that it's highly active. Certain regions of your brain are highly active, which
Mm.
forces you to question and doubt yourself all the time. But our brains are incredibly amazing machines that have evolved over millions of years to ensure our survival. And that's their one reason for being, is to ensure us survival and to reproduce, enable reproduction. And you've done that in spades, you know, which is great, despite the adversities that life has thrown at you.
Yeah, it's something that's always been inside me, to never give up. I don't know what it is, and I just felt like for years that there was a reason why I was not giving up. There was a reason why I was going through what I went through and things like that, you know, and I still believe that. I'm not 100% if it's what I'm doing now is the reason why I carried on doing, or it's still yet to come. But it's this feeling inside, like I said, that I've just got this, right, don't give up, don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. Keep pushing, keep changing, keep healing, keep making difference and that, and it will come. So yeah, so I've always got that fight and flight in me still. It's weird. It's weird.
Oh, I think that's brilliant, because you turned your trauma informed freeze at the instant into into a fight mode. And you know, every time you have conversations like this, which thousands of people can listen to, you're making a difference to somebody's life, either because they feel understood or because they realize that, you know what, I need to pay attention to this person who's acting in ways that I'm not comfortable with, or you're going to stop something from happening and stop history repeating itself, which is, you know, which is an amazing, you know,
Yeah,
opportunity
obviously,
for other people.
I wish we could all stop history repeating with incidents like that. I don't know if me talking could do that, but if I could help people see the signs or see that their family dynamic isn't right, then to do something before it is too late or anything like that, and you know, just to give a voice to the voiceless, I guess, to think, well, you know, I've been through X, Y, and Z, similar to Ryan or whoever, and that, and you know, I'm just here doing nothing. Why don't I do something about it? Or why don't I look at getting healing? Why don't I look at getting some results from it? Get some go to the police and things like that. You know, there's so many avenues that people could go down to get some resolution for what they've been through to turn it into that positive. So if I can be the start of someone's journey, then yeah, I'm more than overwhelmed with that. You know, that's what I want. I want people to like I said, not feel alone, and do something, make that change in their life. Stop going down the same path all the time, thinking, well, I can't do this because I went through this as a kid, or I can't do that because I went through this. Things that we go through shouldn't stop us achieving what we want in life.
I agree. Go on.
Well, I believe if you can turn all that negativity from inside you into a positive power to drive you forward, then that's a huge tool to have. And there's a lot of power there. You can propel yourself forward bloody far. Do you know what I mean? It's just believing in yourself, I guess.
Yeah. And I think, I want to reflect on the word power here, because our brains are intensely powerful. And often we don't get the tools that we need to turn the power outwards to help others. And what we do is we end up turning it inward on ourselves to destroy ourselves, by the thoughts, by the feelings, by the reactions that we have, because we're not equipped to deal with the responses that we've experienced as part of our trauma. And when we learn and we find the right group like you have, thankfully, and there's so many people don't, but when we reach out and keep asking for help and keep asking, we finally have the opportunity to meet the right person or the right group to really allow us to take that power that's inside of us and turn it into something good. I'd love to talk about what happened after you experienced the abuse and how your life unfolded thereafter, because that's a whole layer of trauma that's stacked on top of your experience as well, if you're willing to share.
Yeah. Obviously, after that happened, I was in so many mixed emotions. I didn't know what to do. I felt ashamed, disgusted, hurt, confused. It even made me question my own sexuality, having a man do this. That, forget the father bit or sperm donor bit for a second, just a man do this. That made me question my sexuality. I thought, is that the path I'm supposed to go down? Because I knew at this point that my brother Kevin was gay. He came out when he was 18 and that. So it made me question, think, well, right, am I supposed to follow on the, not family business, but you know what I mean, the family traits here, because obviously SD was obviously bisexual, I guess, and obviously Kev being gay, and I just think, and it just made me question everything. So instead of doing anything about it, I just bottled it up, went back to where I was living with mum, and didn't say anything for years, but it was always eating away at me inside, and my behaviour at home was absolutely disgusting. That's where I kind of, my self-harming started. It wasn't on myself, it was hitting walls and doors and that, just frustration, and my temper was so what's the word I'm looking for? The fuse for my trigger was so short, so anything would set me off, and that was my comfort zone at home with mum, to let all that out. So I went years like that without saying anything to anyone until I was about 26, 27, when I was due to get married. I thought that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with this woman. I didn't, because we're divorced now, but at the time, so I opened up and told her. And then went and told my mum. Then I rang and told my brother, because he was living in London at the time, and that's when I found out about he being sexually abused between the age of 5 and 15. And Kev's words to me was that he let it happen to him, so it didn't happen to me. And yeah, that broke me on many levels, mainly because I thought, damn it, he's gone through all that, and it's been pointless because he still got me in the end. So that was a hard conversation to have, that one.
But I think it's not your fault though. That you know, we sometimes beat ourselves up. That it's our fault that we allowed it to happen, and it isn't.
I know that now, but at that time, do you know what I mean?
Of course you didn't feel that at the time.
Yeah, because that's the tools that I had. You know, it was.
Yeah, the training.
Yeah, because you just
Of course,
blame
your dad
yourself
said
for
it's your
everything.
fault. You know, as
Oh
you
yeah.
mentioned in your book, your dad inferred
Oh, that I asked for it.
you were
Yeah,
to
that
blame,
this was. Yeah,
which is
yeah.
horrendous.
I
And it's
asked
over.
for this,
Yeah,
and even him saying that I asked for that, I was thinking, did I ask for it? When did I ask for it? And I come to the conclusion. I thought, right, I know I didn't ask for it, but if he had been any decent father figure or father, sperm donor, whatever you want to call him, he would have turned around surely and said, look, son, I think we've got some issues here. Are you having gay tendencies? Are you bisexual? You know what I mean? We could have had that conversation. Yeah. Instead of taking advantage of it.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy. But then I've learned over the years that them type of people use any excuse to get what they want and get the blame off themselves. Instead of looking at themselves and taking responsibility, they put it onto other people.
Well, they manipulate, and they're very divisive. As you mentioned, you know, SD was a paedophile.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And preys on the vulnerable, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
He did.
I'd love to go through the experience that led you to being diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and if you could help those that are unfamiliar with it, what that actually means.
Yeah, borderline personality disorder basically means that every emotion that I have is so heightened, it's 100% no matter what. And how can I put this? It's like if you got a really bad sunburn and you touch it, it's so sensitive, it's going to hurt, it's going to go ow straight away. And that's how my emotions are like that all the time. I'm 100% everything. So if I'm happy, I'm bounced off the walls, I'm dancing around the kitchen, I'm having a laugh, having a joke, things like that. You know, I'm the kind of the funny one in a group of people. But when I'm sad, I'm bloody miserable. I'm so angry. It's all or nothing with me when it comes to emotions. I'm dealing with it a little bit more, but obviously back then it was 2016, 2017 that I got diagnosed. And yeah, before then I didn't know who I was. I just thought I was an angry person who'd been through crap, and that was the reason why I was. And yes, that was part of the reason was the trauma of that brought out the borderline personality disorder. But finding out who I was for the first time was quite comforting, because I kind of finally knew, wow, that's me. You know, I'm not this angry person. There's a reason why I am the way I am. You know, it's not just I'm just one of these, you know, idiots who just lose their temper at nothing. There's a reason why I am, and I can do something about it. I can learn and train and become a better person. So getting that diagnosis for me was the wake up call that I needed.
Yeah, and I think it's so important that people recognize this. And I just want to reflect back to your child, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
During your childhood, you weren't able to express your emotions.
No.
Because you had to suppress them, because any expression of them could have led to an explosive outburst from SD. And when you don't have that safe haven, which you didn't, to be allowed to express your emotions, like when we're kids, in a normal family dynamic, you get really angry easily because you don't know how to regulate your emotions, and kids get, start stamping their feet and running around and getting really annoyed, and you probably did this, I'm sure, as a kid as well. But when you're exposed to an environment where you can't release that emotional outburst in a controlled way, you either suppress it or you don't learn the control mechanism in terms of how you release your emotions. If that makes sense. So especially when you've been through layers of trauma, as you have done, parking the sexual abuse, but layers of trauma that you witnessed, and your programmed survival response was be quiet, say nothing. You never really had that opportunity to express yourself in the way that your body wanted you to do it, until such time as you created for yourself, which is great that you were able to do this with all of the adversity that you had, a safe environment for you to talk about it, which was started with before you just got married, with your wife. And so the releasing of all of these emotions that you've been unable to express fully, and then the cascade of emotions that had to be released, which is totally natural, from the revelations that you had when you told your brother about SD, and the knock-on effect of the outcome of the case that we haven't talked about yet, but all of that is totally understandable, that you're in a massive highs and lows of emotions, because historically you wouldn't have had the opportunity to express those highs and lows and get the parental controlling mechanism for you to regulate it. So it's totally natural for your brain to be in that responsive state, because you just didn't get that environment to allow you to do it in a safe way.
That makes so much sense. It really does. Because I think that obviously before I was diagnosed with the borderline personality disorder, I used to have outbursts of anger and that. But I think that was because, like you said, I didn't know how to regulate my emotions or have that safe space to express them and that. They just used to build up until I exploded. And people used to think, well, why are you losing your crap over something little? But to me, it wasn't just about that. It was just about, I can't take it more, It's like a balloon, just boom, like that. And
but you're like a child releasing their emotions, like a child would normally learn if they've got
have a tantrum, basically. Really,
tantrum, exactly. But you're doing it as an adult because you never learned how to do it and how to control it as a child. And normally when and I'm sure you know this as a parent now, when your kids have tantrums, sometimes you just have to let them have them, and then you give them a cuddle at the end when they've kind of calmed themselves down. Or with my daughter, sometimes she just has to have a cuddle to help her down regulate. But if you didn't have that opportunity to get a cuddle, because the family dynamic didn't allow that to happen, especially when you're in the presence of SD, it's totally understandable that you have to learn it as an adult, because you haven't been able to do all of that learning as a child because of the environment you've grown up in.
Well, I was playing catch up for lots of years, really.
Exactly. And your brain's more developed, right? So your brain has grown. You've got adult level of when we talk about anger as an adult, that's much more explosive and fuel charged and powerful than it is as a child. So it's totally natural that you're going to be more aggressive, be bigger highs, bigger lows, because those emotions are more intense as an adult as well.
Yeah, wow. I really needed this conversation today, because the last couple of days I've just been in a bit of a mood. Obviously, I've just come back from getting married and honeymoon, and so it's all that high. And the last couple of days I've just been like that, and I've been a miserable bugger basically these last couple of days. Just stressing, because the problem with me is, because I've got so much determination and want to make a difference to that. But sometimes it's the know-how that I don't know. So I get frustrated with myself, and then I have an adult tantrum still. But it's good to kind of just strip everything back and just kind of talk about little things that I haven't even thought of or need going back over again, like my past and things like that. You know, I don't get me wrong, I enjoy talking about my past, and because I know it's going to help someone else. But sometimes I need to remember I've got to do it for me, not just for other people.
Yeah.
That's where I go wrong, because my mind is thinking, like, do it for other people, do it for other people, do it for people. But sometimes I think, well, I've got to do it for me. I've got to put myself first. And yeah.
Well, it's quite difficult when you're in it to reflect on it. So
oh God, yeah. When I'm like that, I can't think about anything else. I just got to get all this rage, anger, miserable out of me.
Yeah.
And the sulkiness. You know, I am like a little teenage boy having a tantrum. You know.
Yeah. Go have it.
Apart from I should get on the floor and start doing that.
Yeah. Well, I think you should give yourself permission to have a tantrum, because you haven't been allowed to have a tantrum. So I just fill your boots, go and spend 5 years having big tantrums and enjoy the experience because you're entitled to it.
I know, but that's the word entitled. That's where I struggle. I still feel like sometimes that I don't deserve certain things. Like I've done in the past, like I've ruined my whole life and my first marriage and things like that. Because obviously we'll get onto that in a minute. But
Yeah.
you know, I didn't feel like I was entitled to have anything good in my life for a long time, and that creeps back in sometimes. It really does, and
but
I know it always will.
Though the trauma of your experiences ruined it, because you and it goes back to your learned, you know, your training. You know, how can you expect to respond in a normal way when you've lived in a war zone for 19 years of your life? You know, how can anybody expect somebody to have a normal, you know, measured, you know, calming response when you've always been on edge your entire life? You know, you've always been ready to run, to hide, to defend yourself in the way that suits the environment, you know, the war zone environment you've grown up in. And so you're,
I used to do a lot of running away from things for years.
And that's fine. That's fine, because of course you had to, because that's survival, and that's fine.
So obviously, everything I'm doing now is out of my comfort zone, even though I enjoy it. But my natural response sometimes is to say, well, that's it, enough, run away. And I have to, I guess, for a little bit, to give myself that break and stop being so hard on myself. So perhaps sometimes that comes as a blessing and as a positive, to say, right, you can take a step back now, you know, recharge your batteries, then go again.
Yeah, because that's your comfort zone. That's your safe haven. Running is safe for you. That represents safety. You're running to safety. And so psychologically, when you run and when you hide, you feel safe. And it's totally fine to give yourself that permission to do that. So you, like you say, you can recalibrate. But you know that you're in a safe environment to go back into, and that the more you realise that you can recalibrate and go, do you know what? This is safe. I am in a safe world. I'm in a safe world. The world that I've created for myself is safe. So I don't have to run and I don't have to hide as much as I used to.
Well, I've got a story about running, but we'll come to that later.
So let's move, before we move on to the court stuff that I think would be really good to talk about, because I know some people really feel the need to do this. I'd just love to go back to just 2 emotional questions from the 5 pillars of brain health. So brain health, in the framework that I use, we look at the 5 pillars: your feelings, your actions, your connections, your thoughts and surroundings. We've talked about all of those on this show. But for feelings, What is the funniest or most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you?
It wasn't really me, it was more my brother. When we I'm just thinking about it now. When we was growing up, we used to go to a local Tesco store with our pocket money once a month. Mum used to take us, and we used to buy a toy each. I used to get my He-Man action figure, Transformer, Star Wars character, and Kev used to get a little Sylvanian Family, My Little Pony. Obviously, the signs would scream at us as kids that he was going to be gay, and we loved him no matter what. You know, it never bothered us. That was him. And when we used to get to the counter to pay for it, the routine we had to go through was he turned to me when the woman or whoever was serving was hearing, was saying, "Do you think she'll like it?" Meaning that we're buying it for someone to take to a birthday party. And my job was always to go 2 words, "Yes, Kev." But this one day, I don't know if we had a brotherly argument like every sibling does. We got to the counter and he turned to me and said, "Do you think she'll like it?" And I went, "No, it's for you, Kev. You always buy these." And God, did I get the dirtiest, evilest look I ever got from him and that. And he was so traumatized, he had a go at me when we got outside. So why'd you say that for? We're supposed to, it's not for me. I said, "Well, it is, Kev. You know, I'm not going to lie." And it's just one thing that always sticks in my head and it just always makes me smile because that was kind of, obviously, without realizing it at that time, he was going through all his own trauma, but none of us knew.
Yeah.
And it just makes me smile. Just the picture on his face, just look at me, he's saying, "Don't you like that?" And yeah,
Brother
it's,
love.
oh God, yeah. So
What
I was
feeling
doing
or
that.
emotion is most important to you in life and why?
Um, I guess most important thing is happiness and loving yourself.
Ah,
Loving yourself no matter what you've been through and that, you still got to learn to love yourself. So I guess that's a very much important one, that one.
yeah. And I think we forget about that. So we spend so much time loving people outwardly that we forget to turn love inwardly
Yeah.
and learn to love who we are and how our brain is constructed and how our bodies are made, that help us live the life that we're living.
Mm.
Yeah, that is lovely. I'd love to dive into your the court case now, if you wouldn't mind. So I know this is going to be a tricky conversation for you, but if you're willing to share it.
Yeah, of course. Well, that when we had that conversation, when I had that conversation, sorry, with my brother on the phone just before I was getting married, his was obviously to me was that he let it happen to him, so it didn't happen to me. But he didn't want anything done about it because he moved away to London when he was 18, and he said that I've dealt with it, so I won't be going for the police. So we left it for a few years. I went off, got married, had my first child, and then we had one Saturday morning we had a call from Kev. He left a voicemail saying, "Ryan, help me, help me. I don't know where I am. Can you help me?" So it was weird. So we rung his phone back, and the Manchester police answered and said that they found him walking the streets in the early hours of the morning, and he's back at the police station. Can you come and get him? So he drove all the way up to Maidstone, Manchester, and spoke to the police, and he'd gone up there.
I've just lost you, Ryan, your audio. I don't know if you're able to come back. I'm just going to pull. I'll just keep it running until you're coming back. So that's fine because we'll just edit it. Let me get hold of you by phone. love it if you could now go through the question that we were talking about just a moment. Sorry, let me just start again. I don't know what I'm talking about. So I know that we've talked about your experience with SD, but I'd love it if you could share your experience, if you're willing to do so, with the court case that you started, because I think it's really important people understand how difficult it can be to go through that.
Wasn't the easiest process to do that, but originally when I first told Kev about what happened to me and he told me about what happened to him, he didn't want anything done about it. He moved to London, dealt with it his own way, and didn't want to bring it back up again. So I kind of had to accept his wishes and that, which wasn't good for me but little did I know at the time that. So I went off, got married, had my first child, and then we had one Saturday morning where a voicemail from Kev saying, "Ryan, can you help me? I don't know where I am. I'm lost. Help me, help me." Which was weird. We knew he was going up to Manchester anyway because he said he was going to see some friends. But so we rang him back, and the Manchester police picked up, saying that they found him wandering the streets early hours in the morning, so took him back to the police station. So could we go up and pick him up? So drove all the way to Manchester, and when we got there, we found out that he'd been date raped by 3 men and managed to get out the flat there where he was, but obviously didn't know anywhere in Manchester. Luckily, a milkman picked him up and called the police. And while we was there, he shared his side of what happened to him to the Manchester police. So they kind of took it out of our hands. They said that they're going to contact Kent police. Obviously, we was living in Kent, and try and get the ball rolling and get something done about this. I know Kev wasn't happy about it, but it was taken out of his hands. She brought Kev back to Kent with us. Next day, the Kent police come round and spoke to me and Kev separately and unofficially, done an official statement. Then Kev had to go back up to London. I done my official statement, but unfortunately, before Kev done his official statement, he was admitted in hospital with gastroenteritis, and prior to that, he'd been diagnosed full-blown AIDS and hepatitis. So he was in hospital, getting drips and that fluid into his body to try and make him feel a bit better. By then, like I said, I'd already done my official statement, but he wasn't well enough to do his. Then I rang him on the Sunday morning, say how he was feeling, and I was going off to work, and he said that I've managed to keep some food down, some drink. Hopefully, I'll be home today or tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I said, "Oh, it's brilliant, Kev. I hope you get home soon. Love you lots." It's about 10 o'clock, and at 10:15, they found him dead on the floor. He had a burst aneurysm, and it killed him outright at the age of 33.
My goodness.
So that was hard. That was a journey in itself, trying to go back up to London and sort out him, obviously switch the machines off there, because they managed to get his heart starting again, but there was nothing there. They said that if he had pulled through, it would have been a complete vegetable. So they kept him alive for 24 hours so we could say our goodbyes and that. But I still carried on with the court case. The police were ever so helpful. They said that they could use Kev's unofficial statement as a character witness. Unfortunately, they couldn't use it as evidence, which was a shame, because obviously there was 10 years of evidence there that would have nailed him for at least 15 years on its own. My statement, and the law had changed by then, that they could use witnesses from other cases he'd been involved in over the years. They could bring them back up. So he was looking at a good sentence. So it went to magistrate's court. I went along, but I wasn't allowed to go in because I was obviously a witness in that. And I caught him, sight of him for the first time in years. And that was hard, just looking at him, because there was so many feelings in my head and body just wanting me to do different things, to go up and stab him, things like that, or whatever. But I stayed away. Then it got adjourned to Crown Court. And a couple of days before it was due in Crown Court, I got invited to have a walk round the court to get to know the place, so I feel more comfortable, because I was shitting myself. Excuse the language. I was like, it's 2007. So I was, 30, just come up to 30. No, it's 2008, sorry. So I was coming up to 31. But I was so nervous about standing up in front of him, because I was scared of what the defence was trying to turn around to me and make me look like I asked for it and things like that.
Yeah.
So I went to have a tour around the court, which was nice of him to do. Then a couple of days before it was during court, I got a call from the local hospital saying that Mr. Harland. I said, yeah. He said, oh, we think you got your father in there. I said, what do you mean? He said, we've got him. I won't say his name. It's in the book anyway, so I can say it, but I'm not going to mention his name now. Got so-and-so here. He's not got long left to live. I said, what do you mean? He said, oh, he's got a tumour on the brain. I was thinking, my first thought was, he's trying to fake this. He's trying to get out of this for some reason. So I said, look, can I come up to the hospital? Because I'd need to prove that it's him. So I went up there. The nurse was ever so nice. She took me into this room first, had a little chat, and I explained what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
She took me into the ward, and it was him. They pulled the curtain around his bed. I said, can he hear? He said, yeah, but he can't talk. He was like in a semi-coma and that. So I said, once to leave me. So I sat down. They said everything I wanted to say for the first time in my life, and I that there wasn't going to be any repercussions, any questions and things like that. He couldn't lash out and that. I got everything off my chest, not shouting.
Yeah.
There was a few swear words, but there was other people in the ward. I couldn't say it loud. I still wanted to grab a needle or something and stab him while I was there, but obviously I didn't. And got up and left. And it's still surreal, that whole 2 years anyway, of losing Kevin, all this as well.
Yeah.
And then the next morning, I obviously said what I had to say, thanked the nurse, and come home. The next morning, early in the morning, I got a call saying, just let you know he's passed. And I cried. And I don't think that's out of sorrow for him and that. It was, I think it was a lot of mixed emotions, but mostly anger, because I thought he got away with it. He's taken the easy way out, the way that he can't get what he should have got. You know what I mean? He should have gone to prison.
Yeah.
And that was another start of my downfall. After losing Kev and now not getting justice, that's when my life went even further down to the lowest point it's ever been before.
And that must have been so hard for you. but
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I just want to reflect on a few things there, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
Historically, we used to have the death sentence.
Say again, sorry?
Historically, we used to have the death sentence.
Yeah.
The worst crime that people could commit. Your father gave himself his own death sentence.
Mm.
So when I think about your experience and all the trauma you could have then had with the court case and him still being alive, you would not have had the safe haven that you do have now. And you might not see that, you might not see it now or then, and I totally get that.
Yeah, I do now. Trust me, I do now. I know that in the long run, it was the best outcome due to the circumstances losing Kevin out that could have happened, because he couldn't hurt anyone else. I didn't have to go through questioning and things like that, and the defence team trying to make
peace.
Yeah, I got to say my piece in a controlled environment, that there was no any comeback, there was no repercussions or anything like that. There was no violence or questioning or trying to worm his way out of it or anything like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but obviously at the time I was absolutely livid. I really was, and I just felt I blame myself a lot for letting Kev down, because I said to Kev before they turned the machines off, you know, we all had our 2 minutes alone with him and that. I said to him, I'm going to nail the, excuse language, I'm going to nail the bastard. I'm going to do this for you. But so for a good few years, I kind of punished myself because I felt like I let Kev down and a lot of people down. But yeah, but looking back at it now, it was definitely the best outcome due to the circumstances, I think, because I think it could have been a lot worse and a lot more traumatic, and it could have dragged out a lot longer than what it needed to, if that makes sense, you know. Yeah.
And you would have had to relive during the court case, obviously, you would have had to relive the experiences, which is difficult. And obviously, you had the strength to do that, but it's still difficult to do.
Yeah. I would have done it. I would have done it, even though I was nervous as hell and scared about what the defense team were going to try and say and things like that. You know what I mean? But I would have done it. But, yeah.
And I think it's so important to recognise how hard it is for people to do that sort of thing, and how brave you were, you know, given your circumstances, given the situation with your brother, to still be willing to go through that. You know, despite the fact that your father passed in the process. Sorry, SD. Passed in the process. I think you know, it's important to know that you can find the strength to do that and to get justice, which ultimately you did in a different way. I'd love to talk now, before we close the show, what your how you helped yourself with the diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, from all of the trauma that you had layered on from that experience.
Like I said earlier on, getting my diagnosis of borderline personality disorder kind of open up some pores that have been blocked for so many years. I felt like I could breathe properly for the first time. I felt like I belonged somewhere, and just learning to kind of get different tools to live a different way in my life. And that, you know, there's this great poem, I can't remember, it was a great poem in one of the classes that we had, and it said about the tools we've been given are completely different to everyone else. Like, to dig a hole, we're using a spoon instead of a shovel, or instead of, I don't know, I can't remember what else it was, but it was so many things like that. It kind of made sense. Obviously, when you said tools earlier on, it just makes me think about this poem every time. So getting that diagnosis helped me realize who I was and to breathe for the first time, and felt like I actually belonged somewhere in life. And it just changed from there. That's when I decided to write my book. Originally, it was just going to be published so people who knew him and supported SD and that could find out the truth or the other side. But really, it was kind of a massive release for me just to get everything out on paper. It was kind of like, it's out now and I'm getting control of everything in the past. I've learned to forgive, not obviously what happened, but forgive the situation, because I can't carry it on my back anymore in a negative way. I've either got to take hold of it and turn it into something positive, or it's going to beat me down. So obviously writing that for the first time properly was a hard process, but a magical process. It was very therapeutic, and it just led me on to do more positive stuff. I ran the London Marathon in 2017, 18, 19, just to prove to myself and others that I've been through all this crap, but I can still do this.
Amazing.
So you can do stuff like that too. You know what I mean? You can't let anything stop you doing what you want in life. And it's just been crazy since I've obviously diagnosis, done London Marathon. I won the FA People's Cup for men's mental health football team. We went up to where England trained, and we was on the BBC in the final. So we won that. You know, there's so many wonderful, brilliant things that I've done since accepting who I am and find out where I am in life and where I fit. And now I'm here sharing my story, doing podcasts with wonderful, beautiful people and that, and I'm meeting so many people around the world that I would never in a million years would have dreamt of meeting, and all because of what I went through. So that's what I said earlier on at the beginning of this, that I'm kind of grateful in the way that I have been through this, because it's led me to who I am today.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the fact that you've been had the strength to share your story. What one piece of advice, or what advice would you give to anyone who is struggling with a mental health diagnosis, like borderline personality disorder? Because I know it was a struggle for you initially when you first had it, when you mentioned in your book.
Try to learn to accept that's who you are. You know, there's nothing wrong with being the way you are. There's nothing wrong with having any mental, and there's nothing wrong with anything like that. You know, for me, like we mentioned earlier on, it's turned to a bit of a superpower, because I can see it in pain and suffering in other people's eyes before they even know themselves, and the empathy that I've got for other people now is amazing. So kind of trying to look at it on that perspective and just accept who you are. You're beautiful just the way you are. You know, you are the way you are because of what you've been through, or just the way that's what you was made to be. Do you know what I mean? It's, if you can love who you are and accept who you are, then you will be a massive part in this world. You know, you can do so many wonderful, beautiful things if you just accept that you've got BPD, you've got this, you've got that. You know, watching the Paralympics the last couple of weeks, amazing. They don't let anything stop them. And I look at the same with mental health. You know, you can't let anything stop you in life. You know, you might have to take a different path to other people, and your destination might take you longer, but you can learn so much about yourself on the journey. The journey is the most amazing thing. Yeah, like I said, I love who I am now, even though it was a crap start. But the feeling to I'm losing my no. The feeling of knowing that what I've been through got me to here, reminds me that I am a strong person who can face anything and still come out of it a better person without beating myself up or anything like that. But
yeah, and I think that's so important. I think we need to acknowledge that, you know, if you are diagnosed with a mental health condition, it's okay. because your brain is responding in a way that is necessary for whatever reason you've been through in your life in order to help your survival. And it might be difficult. You might go through struggles to go from survive to thrive, and that's okay, because we all have struggles. And just honour the process, honour the struggle, and find the right support network like you have. Keep looking, because you will find it to help you on your journey. So Ryan, thank you so much for sharing your journey. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on my show.
Thank you for having me.
It's most welcome. And remember, everyone, this show is all about brain health, unchaining your pain. You're not stuck with the brain you have the power to make it better. And Ryan has kindly been here to show you how. And if you didn't catch how to get hold of Ryan, how can people get hold of you?
I've got a page on LinkedIn or Facebook. On Facebook, it's called RidingTheStorm. On LinkedIn, it's just, my page is Ryan Harland. I've got a book on Amazon called RidingTheStorm. I'd love you to read it and check it out, and hopefully it will help you.
Yeah, and do make sure you check out Ryan's book. It's an amazing read. It's very authentic, genuine, and it's really, for those that have been through sexual abuse, very relatable. And hopefully there's things in there to really help you ride the storm. Ryan, thank you very much, and I look forward to further conversations.